say, the delightful Peg Lynch.
Well, I'm just going to give a kind of a bird's eye view of my career, and hope it won't be too boring. I started out with my Uncle Harry in Casson, Minnesota. It's 15 miles west of Rochester, New York. Rochester, of course, I'll get killed. Rochester, Minnesota. And where the mail clinic is. And I was walking, I was 4 years old, and there'd been a lot of kidnappings, and I overheard this. So every time somebody kind of approached me, I thought I didn't realize it was only wealthy people got their kids kidnapped, and it could happen to me at any time. I think it was the Hickman at the time. So it didn't work. He sat in a corner and played with this shortwave radio thing all the time. And I tiptoed through the dining room when I had to go. And this time I walked across, and he went, "Come here." I thought he was going to kill me or kidnap me. I didn't know what it was. And he put the earphones on, and I heard, "This is KDKA Pittsburgh." Well, you can't imagine. This was 1920, it must have been. I was 4 years old. It was thrilling. That was thrilling. That's about all there is to that story. Next time I heard it, do you remember Buster Brown? And his dog Ty? Well, he came to Casson. This town was about 800, 900, if that. And they picked 6 of us from the 1st or 2nd grade, wherever here it was. And we were up on the stage, and Mother came up to me and she said, "Smile." Everybody else just smiled. There's 6 of us. We were supposed to be tap dancing. Of course, we shuffled our feet. We weren't tap dancing. And I said, "I can't do it." He said, "Smile." I said, "I can't smile and look at my feet and tap dance and do the sort of thing all at once." That was when my mother taught me that when I had to memorize a line, that I was trying to memorize it. And she said, "Pretend," and this is important, pretend, if you want to remember something, pretend your head is your attic, just like our attic where we keep sheets and towels and slings like that, and that's where we label them. Now over here is a trash basket on this time. If you don't like something, you put it in there. If you don't like somebody, you put his name on it, you put it in, then you don't think about it. You don't hate people. You just put his name in the trash barrel, and that's that, a good lesson. So I always remembered it, and silly as it may sound, because I later taught the art of memory at Columbia University. They asked me to, and I don't know what the hell I said, I'm sure. But at any rate, when I asked, names are going out, James, cripes, well, forget that for the moment. Well, I asked him anyhow, can't think. He said he also did, and he said, "Do you crawl up this attic to your mind?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I take the elevator." And I thought it was cute. Now, Thurber, James Thurber, he was, you remember, any of the people remember James Thurber? He always said he wouldn't be remembered, but he was. I was sitting in, I forgot, went to the theater. He wrote, "You Can't Take It With You." And with Edna Ferber, I think. And I went to a play. Elliot Nugent, Alan's brother, wrote a play by himself for a change, and they put on the play. And I said to Alan, "Well, you backstage afterwards, you circulate, because I don't know people, and I'll just go in your dressing room and wait for you here." And as I walked in, someone said, "Hello, Ethel." And I looked in the corner, a man was sitting there, and I recognized James Thurber. And I said, "Hello," and Mr. Thurber, and he said, "I'm pouting, I'm just mad. I gave them a line to use tonight and they didn't use it." I said, "Maybe it wasn't any good." So that's how we got acquainted. And later when we moved up to Beckett, he lived in northwest Connecticut, and his wife Helen he was in very bad shape. Originally, his brother had shot an arrow, and it went into his left eye, and they didn't do anything about it. They let us go for a week before they went to a doctor, and he didn't die, but it affected his right one too. He never saw. And when he got older, he was getting blind in that eye, and he was in very bad humor most of the time. So his wife would call and say, "You're going to New York today, and would you stop by? If you do, I need cheering up." When I go down there, he didn't intend to tell all this, and he put a big sheet on the wall. That's the only way he could see, and he draws cartoons up there on the wall. So that was fun. Then I went to watch. This is my beginning of my in the 7th grade. I got it here by date and by how old I was. I was in the 7th grade, and I was 15, 16, 15, 14, 17. I was 11th grade. No, I was 11 years old. And Knute Rockne, anybody remember that name? He was a coach at Notre Dame. I didn't know a thing about football. It was my English class in the 7th grade, and she said, "Now, if you're going to go into journalism, you're going to write, you've got to know something about doing." And I go down and interview Knute Rockne. I didn't know what interview meant. So I can remember standing. I was on the 7th floor, and I remember tapping on the door and thinking, "Oh God, what do I say?" So nervous. And he opened the door, and he was darling. And needless to say, I didn't interview him. He interviewed me all the time. And he sat down, and the thing that impressed me, we didn't have phones yet in my home, and I saw that he picked up the telephone, and I thought, what is he going to do? And he ordered a meal. He ordered food, with a phone, and it came up then in the cart. I was astonished that this cart wheel in the door that had food on it. That you could order food by telephone. That's all I remember about the interview. So silly. Now then I started, a classmate of mine, a father had a shoe store. No, radio station that came first. And David DeGembling. And his dad was taking over the first national, turning into a radio station. Well, like all over the country, the leading merchant or man in town would buy these radio stations. They didn't know beans about doing anything in regard to radio. But they built beautiful little tiny radio stations. The nicest room in ours was the ladies' room. The toilets, 2 rooms, and it was a good 12 feet square. And it kind of looked like if you've ever been to Radio City Music Hall, downstairs, gorgeous the lounges, and so that's what this in little town. So I took that over for my office later. So nobody was using it with the ladies. So anyhow, he took this and he said, I really don't know what to do. I asked if I could get a job, and he said yes. And I said, well, the man downstairs, George Wolf, is in selling shoes, and you go talk to him. So I got down to him, and he said, I'm a sponsor. What do I do? And I said, you sell shoes, and you can talk to the public about them. And the first thing you need is a slogan. I'll be back tomorrow with a slogan. So I came back the next day, and this was the first thing that I rewrote for radio and television. Don't spend your life 2 feet away from happiness. Do you like that? I thought it was quite good myself. And then Newt Holland, who had the grocery store, he said he wanted to be a sponsor too. Well, I couldn't really think of anything clever about canned tomatoes or cantaloupe or anything. So we were trying to decide what I should do, and they decided, I think, we both decided at the same time, why don't I interview celebrities? Now you must remember the Mayo Clinic of a town of about 10,000, and we had 1,000 new patients every day. In fact, my hobby when I was 8 was to walk around that block in front of the clinic and see if I could get car license plates with all 48 states. I managed 36 one time, different states that were coming to the patient clinic. So you can see that they did quite a bit of business. So we decided I would interview people. And the first one I had was William Powell, the thin man. You remember him? He was drawing. He was just as funny as he was. I can't remember what he had a goiter, I think, something like that. He was 56 at the time, and I just thought of something funny. we had a county commissioner, and her name was Frances Underleak. I'd forgotten Fanny Underleak, we called her. She ran and she was voted in about 40 years. Christ. Names we used to get at that clinic, and he'd come in, the man would come in and say that they had in charge of the girls. We were desk girls. The women are all the desk girls. And Slick was, I remember that day he came in, it doesn't look nice, you know, for you to call names out like Mrs. Johnson. You come in now to the doctor's room. He said it'd be nice if you would get up and walk over to her. You would imagine a room full of, say, 300 people in the lobby, in the South 7, North 7, that sort of thing, at the clinic. Well, you could, some names you couldn't do anything with. Mrs. Pucky Pal, for example. It's either Pukey Pal or Pucky Pill, you know. And I had one woman with a lot of, I couldn't believe my eyes. So I said, Miss Lotta A. Toilet? And there were only 4 people sitting there. She stood up and she came and says, my name is Lotta A. Toilet. I think I said toilette. Lotta A. Toilet. I said, okay, I'll put you right in. Thomas Urine, what God. Sitka said, just think of what the name is and make an association. For example, if it's wood, then you think of tree. That's how you associate with it. Probably you do that. But with names, some names just have no association. Now, wait a minute, here was I going to tell you. Oh, yes, I'll get into this. Yeah. The man at the transmitter said to me, would you like to do a remote? And I said, well, a what? A remote. What does that mean? Well, it means you take a truck from the transmitter and you go out to wherever you're going, and that's me remote. It's remote from the transmitter. Oh, I thought that was great. Somebody asked me to do something. I didn't know I can't do it. I'm doing a remote tonight. But the remote was with, God, what's their first name? Picard. Do any of you are old enough to remember the Picard brothers? They were, one went out way up in the air in the stratosphere, and the other one was always, yes, and the other one went down into the sea. And I had the one that was going to go up in the air, and it was out at Dr. Sheard's house, and he was the research man for the Mayo Clinic. He was out at Mayowood. And Chuck Sheard said to me, do you want to come out? He's a classmate. He said, do you want to come out and see and interview him with this remote? I said, yes, that would be fun. He said, well, so I went out with him. The transmitter car came out. And also that day was a lady from Columbia University who was doing research with our class, and that was very important. We had to be very nice to her. Oh, I must tell you, I don't forget where I am, say the Picard brothers to me. I was 14 at this time, and artificial fingernails had just been put in the dime store. You could get them, and you trimmed them down, but they were long. You could have a long nail. Then once you glued them on and shaped them, then you put little strings around them, so you went like this, you know, until they were dry. You know, I didn't dry mine entirely. So we got there, and he was talking, and there were only about 10 of us. There wasn't a big crowd out there, and he was going up that day. And I asked him how high he expected to go, and his interpreter, and she was like 14 miles he intended to go up. Dr. Lovejoy had been working with the government and with him on some oxygen tanks that would be fastened on him as he went up. He was nervous, I could see that. And I was just chattering. Actually, she said, he speaks English. Oh, I said, actually, he was speaking English. I thought he was talking French. His accent was so bad, I thought I was finally understanding French. So silly. Anyhow, so I was sitting there waiting to jump into the thing. Oh, and we had wine for lunch. No water, just wine, because it was French. And so as I'm sitting there waiting, Chuck Sheard would take probably Dr. Sheard's son, and he was sitting here, and the guy going up was over here, about a bigger table, and next to me was the woman from Columbia University. And suddenly I saw Chuck over here going, I said, what's the matter? I didn't say anything. And they pointed down at her soup. And there was a fingernail. One of my fingernails had popped off and was in the middle of her soup. And I was in a panic. And he went, I said, you want it on the telephone. And she said, oh, who knows I'm here? I said, I don't know. He said, very important, very important. Oh, she said, I put her spoon down and got up. She said, where's the phone? I said, way back. Way back by the front. I said, way back by the front. And then I picked up her soup bowl and I raced out to the kitchen. And Mrs. Shear said, the blueberry pie has just come out of the oven. It was for the guy here. And I said, this is not, I had no throughout the soup. I said, I've got to have a new bowl of soup. I said, just put it away. Well, I said, just take it out again. I said, why do you always put food away and everybody comes out? And I, new person? No, I don't have room for that. I said, just another bowl of soup. I kept the door open on this, and she came in. I came sailing in with her soup, and I set it down in front of her, and I said, your soup was getting hot, so you didn't get cold. I brought you a fresh soup. She says, you're such a dear. Like such a hypocrite. Anyhow, I said to, the man is the flyer. Well, he's not flying. And I told him, I said, I'm bringing up this microphone, and it's a remote, and your voice will be heard all over. Wouldn't it be nice? I'd like to interview you. And then all of a sudden, there was this big, and he stood up, and he cut the table with him, and he got the table, and he got up like this, and the glasses all poured over, the wine all over the place, and a perfect mess. And he's chattering in French, and somebody said, "What'd you say to him? What'd you say to him?" I said, "I didn't say anything to him." And the guy's running out to get water for him with a pitcher. Mrs. Shear's coming into the blueberry pie. They classed. They had pie for blueberry pie, and he's gone. He's out the door. And everybody after him, everybody saying to me, "What'd you say to him? What'd you say to him?" I said, "I didn't say anything." So, and he's over there, and Dr. Lovejoy is putting on these tubes. He was crazy. They got him off, and he did go up 14 miles that day. Isn't that marvelous? But he wasn't scared at all. But he was scared. I thought the irony of a man who was not scared to go up 14 miles, but wouldn't talk into a microphone. Isn't that amazing? Now, where am I going from here? Just a minute, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Such a fun. Do you want to do the sketch now? Come on. Come on, let's do that now. I'll take you later.
Whatever you say, Mom.
Okay.